Okay, good morning. Here we go. Let me zoom in a little bit here. This is if you want to make a dog or a wolf. You can see that I used a wolf as a reference, and I made a couple versions when I was out sick, wondering what to do with myself, and I kind of started with this idea, and I ended up with this guy. So I'm going to try and recreate this version of my wolf. And really all these are two hexagons. So I have a hexagon that I used to make the main part of the head, and then I use another. I actually copied that hexagon and used it for the snout, the nose of the wolf, whatever you want to call it. So let's move over here, and we will begin by pointing out what windows we're going to use. The Pathfinder window open, the Align window, the Stroke window. Remember, I've clicked on the little hamburger menu to show my options. That way we can get a rounded cap. And then I also brought out my tools by holding down not my tools, what's it called? My shapes, by holding down on this rectangle tool and then clicking on this bar to bring the toolbar out. And that's what's sitting up here right now. So awesome. Let's get started. Begin by using the polygon tool, and looks like we have a hexagon. There's 6 sides to this, and you'll notice that the pointy part is pointing up, like so. So I'm going to use something about 2 inches large, but I want to make sure that everything's straight, so I'm going to hold down the Shift key. And when you do this, Illustrator wants it to lay flat, which is fine because we can just rotate it. So I'm holding Shift, and it makes it a perfect hexagon, as well as making it lay flat. And then we need to rotate it what is that, 90 degrees? So I'm going to hit the R key to rotate. So when I hit R, it activates this tool here. And then to rotate, I'm not going to click on anything. I'm not going to click on this anchor point here. I'm just going to come outside the shape and then click and drag. Hold down the Shift key, and it'll snap into 45-degree increments. So it looks like I went negative 90 degrees. Awesome. Next thing is I want to make sure that I'm using the default fill and stroke colors, and I can get to that by hitting the D key on my keyboard. So I'll hit D, and it will flip it so that I have a white fill and a thin black stroke. I'm going to turn up the stroke to 4 points or so, maybe 5 points. I think I used 5 yesterday. And yeah, I'm going to triple check my size here, just kind of see. So I'll show you what we're going to do to this hexagon here. You can see that I'm going to pull out those 2 sides. Now, let's just show you. It's kind of hard to say. So we're going to edit just certain points. In that regard, we're going to use the direct selection tool. Sorry, I can't talk today. It's been a long couple days for me. And I'm going to click and drag to just select the. I'm going to start with this bottom part here, like so. And I'm going to use the scale tool. So I'll hit S, and that will switch to the scale tool here. And because these 2 points are selected, if I click and drag to the left, it's going to squeeze them, or I'm sorry, to the right, it'll squeeze them out. Like so. Awesome. And I also noticed too that I pulled these 2 points up a little bit. So still with the white arrow tool, I'm going to click and drag over these 2 points, and I'm just going to use the arrow keys to go up a little bit. And just like that, I have recreated, I think, roughly the shape of this guy's head. Yeah. So I'm going to do a couple more adjustments here. It looks like I also pulled up these 2 a bit. So that's kind of your rough shape. Now, if you can believe it or not, this snout was a hexagon too, and I'm going to use the Pathfinder to combine the 2 hexagons. So we're just going to start with the same hexagon, and I'm going to Alt drag on it using the V key. So I'll hit V, and then Alt, click and drag. I'm also holding Shift, so it'll stay straight. Okay, awesome. Now it's a matter of shrinking the snout down a little bit. So how do I do this here? I'm going to click and drag to the right here, like so. And I want you to get used to using the align tools. So I'm going to click and drag to select both of these guys and align in the center. And you can see his snout is actually going down that way. So I might be better off rotating this. So I'm gonna select this. Looks like I need to rotate this 180 degrees. Like so. And it's probably a little too thick right now. So let's take these 2 points in. And again, I'm gonna use the scale tool. So I'll hit S and then click and drag to the left. And I'll do the same thing down here too. Scale, click and drag to the left. Now, I worked on this one for a while. It took me, I'm trying to make this one quick for you guys. But you can see the nose is a little too pointy. So I'm gonna hit A for the white arrow. And then I'll just click up to make his snout just a little less pointy. And, to be honest, it kind of looks like a duck right now. But I'm gonna triple check my shape here and just, yeah, so it needs to go a little further. A lot of this, you guys are gonna have to eyeball a bit. Hit the S key and I'll drag it to the right. And that gives me roughly that same shape. So it's really 2 hexagons. One, they're kind of flipped. You can see on this top hexagon, it gets narrower at the top. The bottom hexagon, it gets narrower at the bottom. And now I think I'm happy with my rough shape. Make sure, because I'm going to give him this beard here, I need some space, like along this little shape here. But I got plenty of space because I'm going to use some cutouts later. But to combine these 2 shapes, I'm going to select the whole object. And in my Pathfinder window, it's the first option, which is Unite. And that will, boom. Very nice. That, to me, was the hardest part. Well, actually, this cutout is interesting, especially if you want to keep it symmetrical, which I know that you can. And these are just simply a couple triangles. So I'm going to use my polygon tool again, and I'll click on that. If I click and drag, do you remember how to make a triangle? While you're dragging out on the polygon tool, you hit the down arrow a couple times, like so. And an advanced tip is while you're dragging this out, you could also hold down the space bar and move it in. But that's kind of a lot of keyboard shortcuts, so I'm just going to keep it simple. Use the V key to move this into place. So I'm going to cut out kind of a big chunk there. And I'm going to copy this and move that here. Maybe make it a little bit smaller. Like so. Okay. So this don't look like much. Oh, I guess you could kind of see the outline here. I'm going to triple check and see what it looks like by using the minus front option. And that minus is everything in the front. So yeah, I'm kind of happy with that, I think. Let me undo that, because we're not quite done with these. I still need to copy this and flip it on the other side in order to make it symmetrical. And to make it a little bit easier, I'm going to click and drag to select these 2 triangles, and we're going to group them. Control G. Now I will copy them and flip them on the other side. So we'll hold Alt, click and drag, and we'll hold down Shift as well, so it'll keep it straight. And I don't know exactly where it needs to go, but we're going to use the Align tool later. And now that I have them copied over here, I'm going to use the Reflect tool. That's the O key on your keyboard, O. And again, it works like the Rotate tool. I'm just going to click and drag, and I'll hold Shift so it stays at 90 degrees. And then I'm just going to roughly put this into place here. Hold Shift, like so. Now, in order to use the Align tool, I need to group these triangles and these triangles together so that they center align with the head. That's pretty easy. Let's hold down Shift and select these 2, because these are already grouped together. So now we're doing like 2 groupings. Control G. All right, let's align it. So I'm going to click and drag over the whole shape and come over to my Align tool and choose the Center Align. It just kind of snaps it into place. From there, I will do the Pathfinder option of minusing the front. So because these little Dorito shapes are on top of this head shape, it will cut that out. So I'm going to click on Pathfinder minus front. Boom. Now my coyote has a little beard. And there's still a lot of possibilities as far as editing this goes. Like I could make his head a little wider. To me, I'd like to make it wider. I think it'd look better. So I'm going to use the white arrow. Select this point, and then we'll use the scale key again. So S for scale, and drag to the right, and boom, look at that. So it's starting to look like a menacing wolf here. I bet you could guess what these shapes are. More triangles. While I'm here, I'm going to move this down a little bit. Give me some room. So for the triangle, again, we're going to use the polygon tool. We'll just click and drag. And it remembers that it was a triangle last time. And hold the space bar so you can move the triangle down. And it's going to be a little more pointy than this, but I'm trying to eyeball the angle so it matches with this angle here. And now, in order to stretch out the ear, I'm going to use the white arrow and then click and drag on this point. Now, what I did here was you didn't see it, I didn't point it out, but if I hit white arrow and drag here, it's just going to move it. So you have to click away from it first, now drag out. To an appropriate, shape. I don't know, something like that. Maybe a little taller. So I hit the A key there. I'm going to stretch it out a little more, like so. It kind of looks like a horn right now, so that's why we add these little inside triangles. And before I make a copy and flip it, I'm going to finish this ear. So here's a little tip. I'm going to just copy and shrink this down. I'm going to hold Control C to copy, and not Control V. We're going to do Control F, and that will paste another triangle right on top of that last one. And now I can just shrink it down. If you hold Shift and Alt, it will center it. And I want it to be just black, so I'm going to flip my two swatches here so that there's a black fill. I'm going to get rid of the stroke by selecting the stroke and then hitting none. Sure. Okay, now this is ready to go, ready to flip. It looks pretty close. The angle's okay. Because I copied to front, Control C, Control F, the triangles are kind of the same angle. But now we need to group them. So select both, do Control G, and then we'll Alt, drag, hold Shift as well so it stays in the same spot, same height. And the flip, so we'll hit O, and click and drag. I'm holding Shift, and it didn't quite, it needs to be a little further away. So I'm just going to switch to the black arrow. Hi guys. And scoot this over. And if you're really getting crazy, you can click and drag over this, select it. We're going to group them together, Control G, and then I'll select all the shapes and align them. Let's close my color. And with the Align tool, boom, very, very small adjustment there. Okay, we're getting there. What else do we need to do? Let's make this triangle real quick because it's going to remember. And because it has a black fill, I'm going to click and drag and hold Shift. Let's move it into place. So clearly this is too big and it needs to be rotated. So I'm going to first rotate it. Hit R. Rotate around. And shrink it down. Down here. And to flatten it, I think with the black arrow you can just click and drag on that top part. Yep. Nice. I experimented a little bit with the snout and how to kind of give some detail to the snout here. I did this, first I tried this thing where it's like coming out of the eyes. This time though, I liked it better when it was just two lines. So real quick, let's just zoom in. I'm going to use my line tool, line segment tool. And actually, we should do the eyes first because it should kind of come out of the little tear ducts. So these eyes are actually just rectangles. I'm going to use my rectangle tool. And just draw a rectangle out. I'm going to use the default colors. So I'll hit D. Turn up the stroke. Use the white arrow. And then how do you make it look menacing? I'm going to select 1 point and drag it down. I'm not sure. Did someone erase that?
I don't know. I mean, it's a clean slate.
You know, they vacuum too, so maybe it was just the guys. Not quite menacing enough, so I'm going to take this point here and move it over to the left. Nice. This is starting to look like a goat too. I don't know, but yeah. In order, I'll let you figure out how to make the inside of the eye. I'm just gonna kind of keep it like this for now to keep this quick. So I'll Alt drag, hold down the Shift key, hit the O key to rotate. Oh, what did I do? Whoops, I right clicked or something. Zoom in. Let's undo that. Okay, back to where we were. Hit the O key and we'll rotate around. What is it, 90 degrees? There we go, negative 90. Switch to my black arrow, scoot it over. Yes, can you get that? Thank you. And then just like we've been doing before, we need to group these two shapes. 1, 2, and then Control G. And now I'm gonna align it to this guy here. It kind of moved everything over, so I'm just going to select everything. Because I've been good about grouping stuff, there we go. And the last step is to make a line. So I'm going to have it. Let's see, how does it go? Oh yeah, it does go like that. Okay. So I'm going to grab my line tool and then click and drag from kind of roughly where the tear duct is and drag it down here. Turn up the stroke. 5 points. Use the round cap. Remember, this is the stroke window. And I'm happy with that, so I'm going to Alt, drag it over. Use the flip. That's the O key. Click and drag. Definitely not aligned, so I'm going to use the V with a black arrow. Scoot it over. And yeah, I can group these together. Control G. So a lot of grouping and flipping. That's about it. After that, you are like Master O Illustrator. Oh, it was already centered. Awesome. So there's my wolf spirit animal. I'll let you experiment with the eyes. I also added a half moon in the background, which kind of I thought was fun. It also looks like shoulders. You could also do other stuff, like maybe you add a line to make it look like he's got shoulders. You know, look, just something like this gives it a body. Looks like a police dog now or something. And yeah, in order to make the half moon, you select the ellipse tool. I'm going to use default colors here, so I'll hit D. Turn up my stroke. Copy this. And not even a half moon. I saw today it was like kind of a quarter-ish moon, so we'll do something like that. Click and drag. And we'll punch through using minus front. And this is a fill, black fill, so I'm going to switch these colors. And I don't know, that's it. I have no idea how long this video took. We need to rearrange, so I'm going to right-click on this moon, choose Arrange, and then Send to Back. So I hope you like this. Are you a wolf spirit animal? Good. Save your work, file save. And let's check my time here. I'm guessing it's like 12 minutes. Ooh, I'm sorry. If you got to the end of this, you get, A+, A+. Just come up to me and say, Zbarth, I got to the end. Give me an A. Thank you.